This episode of Beyond the Backyard is brought to you by Ultimate Archery and Outdoors, Ultimate Deer Products, Edutrax Incorporated, Red Light Flute Pot Seed Company, Tacticam, and by Jay's Sporting Goods.
Welcome back to Beyond the Backyard, where we dive deep into the traditions, tools, and truths of hunting in Michigan and beyond. I'm your host, Steve Kredovic, and today we're tackling a hot topic in the hunting world: compound bows versus crossbows. Which one is better for deer hunting? We're going to be breaking down the pros and cons of each, talk about the legality, ethics, and technology, and even dive into the generational divide this debate has created. Whether you're a die-hard crossbow hunter or a die-hard compound bow hunter, there's something here for everyone. But before we get started, let's thank all of our sponsors: Ultimate Archery and Outdoors in West Branch, Ultimate Deer Products, Edutrax Incorporated, Red Light Flute Pot Seed Company, Tacticam, and Jay's Sporting Goods. Let's start with a little history. Compound bows revolutionized archery back in the 1960s. Using a system of cams and pulleys, they allowed hunters to hold less draw weight at full draw, making it easier to aim and more accurate at distance. Fast forward to the 21st century, crossbows have exploded in popularity, especially in states like Michigan, where their use has been expanded in archery seasons. Why? Because they're easier to use, require less physical strength, and bring more people into the sport. But it's not without controversy. A quick stat: according to the Michigan DNR, crossbow hunters now make up over 60% of the archery harvest. That's a huge shift from just 20 years ago. Let's first talk about compound bows. Here are some pros of compound bows. First, you have the precision and control. You have to draw, anchor, aim, and release, which gives a traditional feel, but forces skill development. Next, you have lightweight. Compound bows are generally lighter, easier to maneuver in tight spaces like a tree stand or a blind. They're quieter than crossbows, less mechanical noise, and since it takes more practice, most compound bow hunters are very intentional with their shot selection. But I will say, when it comes to ethical shots and taking more practice, that really comes down to hunter by hunter basis, because you have the guys that shoot compounds that shoot all summer, go home every day, shoot 10 arrows a day, 20, 30 arrows a day for at least 2 months before season starts. Then you have the compound guys that they don't pull out their bow until a week before season, shoot it, yep, they're sighted in, go back out, never shoot it again until they shoot a buck, not knowing if their bow has ever been hit or bumped off the tree when they're pulling it up. So you really have two different types of people, even when it comes down to compounds. You can have some very unethical hunters too, when it comes to a compound bow hunter. But it's not all sunshine and arrows. Here are some cons. Physical demand. It requires upper body strength and stamina. It's not ideal for hunters with disabilities or injuries, people that have shoulder injuries. It's a steep learning curve. It takes more practice and time to become accurate and lethal. And you have shorter effective range compared to crossbows. Ethical range is usually under 40 yards for most hunters. Now on to crossbows, the new kid on the block. Even though they've been around for centuries, they really have made a huge wave in the last 10 years. Some pros of crossbows, though, are their ease of use. There's no need to draw while aiming. You can cock it at home or in your blind. As far as even just the movement, with a bow, compound bow, you have to sit there and slowly wait for the right exact time to pull back your bow without them busting you. And then you have to decide if you pull that bow back too darn soon, you're sitting there trying to hold back that weight while that deer's staring at you, compared to a crossbow where you can just make that one movement up into your scope and you're set. They extend your range. Some hunters can ethically shoot 50 to 60 yards or more with high-end scopes. Now, I know there's guys that you can shoot with your Ravens 80, 90, 100 yards. I wouldn't recommend that. A lot can happen. I don't care how fast your crossbow is, but with the noise and just that distance, a deer could move just a little bit to make your shot bad in 80, 90 yards by the time your arrow gets there. Maybe people have done it. I understand. I've heard stories of guys shooting their crossbows 80, 90 yards, but I would not recommend it as far as being ethical or as far as setting yourself up for possible something bad to happen. You have a buck 90 yards out. By the time your arrow gets there, one little movement can throw your arrow back into his guts or into somewhere where you're not going to find that buck. The cons of crossbows, and they're heavier and they're bulkier. They're not easy to carry through the woods or maneuver in tight spots. They're noisy. The mechanical schwack of a crossbow is louder than a compound bow, possibly alerting nearby deer. Overconfidence is some cons. Some hunters stretch shots too far, assuming the crossbow makes them a sniper. And then you get less practice. Some argue it reduces the incentive to truly master archery skills. But this is where things get spicy. Traditional bow hunters argue that crossbows cheapen the archery experience. They turn archery season into a rifle season with strings. But on the flip side, isn't it our goal to encourage more people to hunt, to harvest ethically and responsibly? The Michigan DNR has tried to balance the opportunity and tradition, and they've extended crossbows use, but also keep an eye on harvest data and season structure. Here's the ethical line. Are you capable of making a clean, quick kill with your equipment? That should be the only measuring stick that's out there. When it comes to all this arguing we have going on, people saying that's not real hunting, you shouldn't use a crossbow, at the end of the day, the main focus that we should be caring about is that fellow hunter being ethical. Is he making a quick kill? If the answer is yes, then we should not be worrying about what that hunter is using during their kill. Let's talk about what I'm hearing from all of you out there. And if you haven't already, go comment on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel with your take on this subject. I'd love to hear in the comments, what do you think about this whole debate? What is your personal experiences? What have you seen? The pros and cons of each. And like I said, what is your opinion on if crossbow hunting or compound bow hunting, which one do you feel is a more ethical hunt? Now, some of you saying, crossbows saved my hunting life. I had shoulder surgery and I thought I was done. Now I'm back in the woods with my grandson. Others say, it's not just the same. Crossbow hunters don't put in the time. They're crowding the woods. This is where that generational gap comes in. You've got seasoned hunters who grew up in the recurves and the compounds, and now there's a wave of new hunters entering this sport with crossbows, especially youth and women. And it's not a bad thing. It's just different. I think that sometimes people have a hard time with change, and things change over time. And if we can get more people in the woods, women, kids, guys, doesn't matter, I think that's a great thing. Now, I understand some of you guys are dealing with access to land. You know, we talked about that before, that the lower the amount of property out there available to land has gone down over the years with being sold off or different owners taking it off. You don't have the same access as you did 20 years ago to find hunting land. So then you have more hunters. Now you're overcrowding on state land, private land. So it can really make things difficult to get out there. But what's my take on all of this? You know, I shoot both. I love the challenge of a compound. I love the discipline and the feeling of drawing on a buck at 20 yards. But I also respect what crossbows have done for the sport. They brought in hunters who otherwise might be on the sidelines. They've extended seasons and increased participation. The key is responsibility. If you're putting a bolt or an arrow through a deer, it's your job to be ethical, proficient, and respectful, no matter what you're shooting. We need to stop the hate. Whether you're shooting a crossbow, a compound, a longbow, a recurve, whatever you're using that's legal to use during archery season, encourage the other people. Just make ethical shots when it comes down to it. No matter what weapon you're using, as long as you're ethical and you're taking good shots and you're doing quick kills, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. We need to support each other. We need to encourage each other, because you can try to split and divide us, but at the end of the day, we're all deer hunters. That's a wrap on this week's episode of Beyond the Backyard. I want to hear from you. Are you team compound, or are you team crossbow, or are you both? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget, hunting is about more than just the weapon. It's about getting outside. It's about spending time with family, respecting the land, and making memories. Thanks for joining me. If you like this episode, leave a review, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss what's next. Until next time, aim true, hunt hard, and respect the game.